The arrival of the human. The sky over Zereth Prime was quiet and dark like always. The wind moved slowly across the black stone towers and sharp red trees. People were walking in silence. They were proud and strong. They were warriors. They were Zerathi Kalara. Stood at the top of the watchtower. She was the elder daughter of the High Commander, tall, cold, powerful. Her eyes were like fire trapped in ice. She looked into the sky and felt a strange feeling. A storm was coming, but not the kind with wind and rain. Then the sky broke open. A fireball fell from the stars. The people looked up and ran for cover. Guards took their weapons. Kalara did not move. She watched as the fireball came closer, burning, glowing alive. It crashed into the ground beyond the city wall. A cloud of red dust filled the air. Smoke rose like a giant shadow. From the fire, a figure walked out. He was not Zerathi. He had no horns. His skin was smooth and pale. His hair was black like space. His eyes were calm but sharp. He was not afraid. He walked through fire like it was nothing. He was human. Kalara came down from the tower. Soldiers pointed weapons at the human, but he raised his hand. He spoke, "My name is Ethan. I come in pieces." Voice was not loud, but it had power. Even the weapons seemed to lower themselves. Kalara looked at him. Her heart beat faster, but she did not show it. Humans were rare, almost legends. Once the Zerathi feared them. Then the humans vanished from the stars. Now one stood here alone. The queen arrived. Tall and cold like Kalara. She looked at Ethan. "What do you want from us?" "Why now? Why alone?" Ethan bowed slightly. "I bring a message and a warning. The stars are changing. Darkness is coming. We need to stand together." The queen looked at Kalara. She did not trust him, but she saw something in Kalara's eyes. Curiosity, dangerous curiosity. They allowed Ethan to stay one night. Only guards watched him. Kalara watched him too, not from duty, from something else. Later that night, Leora stood in the shadows. She was the younger sister, smaller, faster, smarter. She watched Ethan talking to the guards. He laughed. He smiled. He was different from Zerathi. Leora smiled too, not because of the human, but because of her sister. Kalara always controlled everything, always followed the rules, but not tonight. Kalara sat on the tower again. Ethan came quietly. They looked at the stars without speaking. "You are not afraid of us?" she said finally. "No," he answered. "Should I be?" She smiled. "Only a little. You came alone. That is brave or foolish. Maybe both." Ethan nodded. "Maybe. But sometimes alone is the only way to see the truth." She looked at him again. He looked into her eyes without fear. No one did that. Not even Zerathi warriors below them. Leora watched. Her smile faded. This was not good. Not for the family, not for the council, not for hair in the dark. A red light blinked on Ethan's arm, hidden under his sleeve. A signal. Someone or something was listening. Stars above turned cold. The night grew still, and in the silence, a new story began. One human, two sisters, and a secret bigger than the sky. Asterisk. The sun rose slow and cold over Zereth Prime. Light touched the black towers and the stone roads. The fire in the sky was gone, but something new had arrived. Something no one fully understood. Something that walked on two legs and smiled without fear. The human was awake. His name was Ethan. He stood in the training circle where warriors fought each morning. He did not wear armor, only dark clothes that looked soft. But there was steel in his eyes and strength in his step. Kalara watched from the side, her arms crossed, face calm, but her mind was not calm. She had not slept. She had thought of his words all night, his warning, his courage, his mystery. Ethan looked at the Zerathi fighters. They were tall and strong, their horns curved like blades. They had trained since childhood. But he did not look afraid. He smiled and said only two words. "Teach me." There was silence, then laughter. A warrior named Varn stepped forward. He was bigger than the others, known for breaking bones. He looked down at Ethan. "You think we can teach you? You think you can fight like us?" Ethan nodded. "Once I can learn. Or at least try." Kalara stepped forward. "Let him try. If he bleeds, he learns. If he falls, he learns more." So they led him into the circle. Ethan stood tall, no weapon in his hands, no armor on his body. Varn attacked fast. A blur of muscle and rage, but Ethan moved not fast, not strong, but clever. He rolled, dodged, stepped. Aside he got hit. He fell. He stood again. Again. Each fall left dust on his clothes. Each hit left a mark. But each time he stood up, Kilara watched him. She felt something strange, not pride, not worry, something in between. The crowd grew Zarathi. Did not cheer. But they watched, and watching met respect. Liora stood far away, hidden near the shade of the council hall. She watched too, her eyes narrow, her fingers tight around her cloak. She had seen Kilara look at the human, not as a commander, not as a leader, but as a woman, and Liora felt a spark not of love, but of challenge. Later that day, Ethan walked through the gardens. Silent paths, red trees, stone flowers. Zarathi gardens were hard, beautiful in a sharp way, like weapons made from art. Kilara walked beside him. She said little, he said less. Then he stopped, looked at the sky on earth. We had skies like this before the fall. She looked at him. What fall? He turned to her. The fall of our cities, the fall of our people, not from war, from ourselves. Looked tired, older than he seemed, like someone who had seen too much and lost even more. Kilara wanted to ask more, but a voice called behind them. Let me walk with him too. Was Liora, her eyes bright, her smile soft, but her tone sharp. Kilara said nothing. Ethan nodded. Three walked now, silence between them, a silence full of questions. Council watched from above, old eyes, cold hearts. They whispered among themselves. Human grows bold. The sisters grow close. This is danger in the night. Queen met with the council. They spoke of the past, of old war, of old fear. Humans once ruled the stars, then vanished. Now one returns, and with him possibility, not just of alliance, but of power. They remembered the legend that human blood could awaken. The stone core, a weapon lost, sleeping beneath Zirith Prime, waiting for the right mind, the right heart, the right key. Kilara did not know this. Liora did not know Ethan. Maybe he knew, maybe not, but something in his blood shimmered with old memory. And the planet remembered him. That night Kilara walked to the tower again. Ethan followed. They spoke of nothing and of everything. She asked him, why do you keep standing after every hit, after every fall? He looked at her. Because standing is what we do. We fall, we break, we bleed, but we rise. Zarathi do not rise, we conquer. Then maybe we can teach each other. Below them Liora stood alone, looking up. A storm inside her, a fire too. She would not be left behind. She would not watch Kilara win this war of hearts. She would fight too, not with swords, but with charm, with smiles, with the power Kilara never used. And Ethan, he was not blind. He saw the war coming, not in space, but between two hearts, and he knew he could not walk away now. The sky was darker than before. Clouds moved slow across the twin moons. The wind had changed. It carried something cold, not from the air, but from inside the hearts of the people. In the ancient halls of Zirith Prime, old walls whispered old truths. Truths that had been locked away, buried in stone and silence. Liora stood before the mirror pool. Her reflection looked different now, sharper, stronger. The fire in her chest was growing. It was not just about the human. It was about Kilara. It was about winning. She turned away and walked fast through the garden. She needed to see him. She needed to speak before Kilara claimed him fully. Ethan sat alone under a twisted tree. Its roots were black and wide like a claw. He stared at the stars above. He looked calm, but inside his mind storms were rising. Liora sat beside him, close but not too close. Her voice was soft like evening wind. Do you miss your world? He waited a moment, then nodded once. Yes. Every day. What was it like? Earth, beautiful, loud, broken, but still beautiful. And what happened to I? Paused again. His eyes did not move from the stars. We made too much, wanted too much, broke too much, and when it was time to pay, we ran out of time. Lyra looked at him. She saw no weakness in his voice, only memory, only pain wrapped in strength. Do you think Zirith will fall like Earth? Not if we learn what is stopped before it is too late. She looked at him longer, then leaned closer, her words almost a whisper. I do not want to lose you to my Sister, he looked at her, a flicker of surprise. Then silence, I am not something to be taken. Then let me be the one you choose. Her hand touched his. It was warm, real, but his eyes looked distant from the shadows. Kelara watched. She had followed them, not like a soldier, like a sister afraid to lose, her hands curled into fists. But she did not step forward, not yet that night. Ethan walked alone to the Temple of Memory. It stood at the edge of the city, made of black stone and blue flame inside the walls. Moved like water, showing the past to those who listened, he placed his hand on the crystal door. It opened with a sound like thunder held in chains. He stepped inside. The room lit up around him. Images floated in the air. Old wars, old peace, old humans. Standing beside Zarathi, laughing, fighting, loving. Then he saw something, a symbol burned into a stone, a spiral of light inside a hand. He pulled back his sleeve, the same symbol glowing faintly on his arm. He did not remember when it appeared, but it had always been there since he left Earth, maybe before voices began to whisper, not loud, not words, just feelings. He walked deeper. The air thick like sleep, the light dim. He reached a chamber with no ceiling. Stars looked down from above. In the center, a small altar, and on it a vial, golden bright, warm as blood. But how he reached for it, and the moment his hand touched the vial, the stars above flared, the ground shook, and his vision split. He saw two futures, one of fire, one of light, and in both Kelara and Liora stood beside him, but never together. He fell to his knees, breathing hard. The blood in the vial swirled. Alive, hungry, behind him Kelara entered. She had followed. But what she saw made her freeze. Ethan stood slowly, his eyes glowing gold, his skin hot like a forge. He turned to her. This is not just about me, is it? This is bigger, much bigger. Kelara stepped closer. Yes, you are more than just human. Your blood is a key. The council thinks it can unlock the stone core, and you believe? That Toei believe you are not here by accident. He looked into her eyes, and for the first time he felt fear, not of her, but of what he was becoming. Kelara placed her hand on his chest. Feel your heartbeat. It is louder than thunder. That is not weakness. That is power from far away. Liora watched through the flame mirror. She saw the touch, the moment, and her heart burned. She turned and walked away, but not in silence, not in peace. She walked toward the council chambers, toward the throne, toward the truth they had kept. If Ethan was the key, then she would be the one to turn it, not Kelara, not anyone else. The stars above blinked, and for a second, everything paused. A human, a secret, two sisters, and a destiny written in blood. Asterisk. Zereth Prime never slept. The towers always glowed. The guards always marched. But that night felt different. The ground seemed tense. The wind had no voice, and the stars refused to blink. Alara stood on the balcony of the Queen's Hall, her eyes on the horizon, her thoughts deep and restless. She felt it in her blood. A storm was near, not of fire, not of stone, but of hearts, and it was already here behind her. The council argued. Old voices with cold minds. They spoke of power, of blood, of the ancient weapon sleeping below the city. Ethan was not a guest anymore. He was a question, a danger, a tool, and tools must be used. Kelara turned from the stars and faced them. If you want to use him, you will have to go through me. The room fell silent. Even the queen raised her eyes. The council elders spoke. You protect him like he is your matter. Kelara raised her chin. I protect what is mine outside, in the warrior yard. Liora trained with sharp blades and silent anger. Each strike harder than the last, each move faster, each thought burning. She had seen the mirror flame. She had seen Kelara's hand on Ethan's chest. She had felt the fire rise in her stomach, and now it refused to cool. A voice called to her from the shadows. A council member, thin, clever, smiling with no joy, whispered, if you want to stop your sister, we can help you. Liora turned. Why would I trust you? Because we want the same thing. And what is that? To control the future. Liora's heart beat fast, not from fear, from opportunity. She did not nod. She did not speak, but her silence was answer enough. That evening the city gathered in the arena. Not for war, not for games, for something rare, a challenge of choice. Kelara had done the unthinkable. She had called for the rite of flame, an ancient ritual once used to settle royal matters of love and loyalty. Ethan stood in the center, surrounded by thousands. The stars above watched silently. Kayla stepped forward, her voice strong and clear. He has entered our world. He has faced our trials. He has shared our pain, and now he must choose. Lyra stepped forward too, her voice softer but sharper. Why must he choose only one? Why must love follow old rules? Gasps rose from the crowd. The queen stood, her eyes darkened unreadably. Kayla stared at Lyra. You speak like this is a game. You act like he belongs to you. I claimed him first. He is not a prize. Then why are we fighting for him? Because I love him. I do too. Ethan stepped between them, his face calm, his voice low. This is not what I wanted. This is not why I came. But the flames had already started. Words had turned to wounds, and the crowd wanted fire. Queen raised her hand. Let the rite begin. From the ground 2 flames rose, blue for Kaylara, silver for Lyra. Stepped into the light. No weapons, only truth. Ethan watched with heavy breath. He saw their pain, their power, their love, and he hated it. Kaylara spoke. I am the elder. I have led armies. I have kept this world strong. I have risked everything for my people, and now I risk everything for you. Lyra spoke. I am not the elder. I have lived in shadow, but I have seen what others missed. I do not offer command. I offer choice. I do not want to lead you. I want to stand beside you. Flames pulsed. The wind howled. Ethan looked from one to the other. He closed his eyes. Then he stepped forward. I will not choose one, because my heart does not split. It grows. You asked me to break it into 2, but it beats for both of you. Gasps. Again, whispers like waves. Ethan turned to the queen. Let me bond with both. Not as a king, not as a master, but as a man who sees truth in 2 souls. The queen looked at the council, some shocked, some furious, some quiet. Then she spoke. Kezarathi law has no place for this, but the future does. She lowered her head. Let the bond be shared. The flames joined. Blue and silver became white. The crowd knelt. The sky opened, but in the shadows, a watcher turned away. The council elder who spoke to Lyra now whispered to another. The weapon sleeps no longer. The blood has awakened it, and the war we waited for is here. Kaylara and Lyra stood with Ethan together, but peace would not stay, not with secrets in the dark, not with old power rising, not with hearts still learning how to trust. The stars above Zereth Prime burned brighter than before. The air felt thin, like something had been taken, or something was about to begin. Ethan stood on the high wall of the city. He looked down at the stone roads and the glowing towers behind him. The 2 sisters stood silent, Kaylara on his left, Lyra on his right. They were no longer rivals, but they were not yet one. A new bond had been made. But peace does not come from a single moment. Kaylara placed a hand on his shoulder. You are quiet again. Ethan nodded slowly. Too many eyes, too many thoughts. Lyra looked up at the sky. Do humans always think so much? Ethan smiled without joy. Only when we are afraid. Kaylara stepped closer. What is it? What are you not saying? Ethan turned around, the warmth in his eyes fading. I lied. Silence dropped like a blade between them. He continued. I did not come only for alliance. I did not come only for peace. Then why? Lyra whispered. Because something is coming. Something that cannot be reasoned with, something that eats stars. He paused, searching for the right words. We called them the Void Swarm. Kaylara frowned. The old story. The myth told to scare children. Not a myth, Ethan answered. They destroyed the outer colonies. They burned worlds. They move like a virus with no heart and no fear. And they are coming. Lyra took a step back. How do you know? Because I ran from them. Because I watched my people die. Because I carry the last message of Earth. He pulled a small device from his belt, a crystal core, still blinking, still alive. He handed it to Kaylara. This holds the final memory of my world. It holds the voice of my commander. It holds the last map of the swarm. Kaylara held the crystal like it might break. Lyra touched it too. The light within began to rise. Voice that came out was human, female, strong. To any survivors, Earth is gone. The swarm cannot be stopped, only slowed. Find strength. Do not trust the silence between the stars. The message ended. The light Theta Calera stared at Ethan. You brought a warning and hope. Ethan shook his head. Only warning. Hope is something we must build here. Suddenly the ground shook, not gently, not like wind or weight, but like something beneath was waking. The sisters turned to the city. Screams echoed from the southern wall. Flames rose, not red, but black. Alara ran. Ethan followed Leora close behind. They reached the wall. The guards were already fighting, but not against soldiers. Insects, tall as trees, bodies made of armor and shadow, eyes glowing like cold stars. The void swarm. Ethan's voice rang out. Target the joints, avoid the center, move in pairs. Do not stand still. He moved like he had done this before, because he had. Too many times. Kalara leapt into battle. Her blade danced like fire. Leora used her speed, her strikes fast and deadly. But the swarm did not slow. More came climbing the walls, breaking the gates. Ethan grabbed a fallen weapon. Not Zarathi, but still deadly. He aimed, fired, moved. He fought not like a diplomat, but like a soldier who had nothing left to lose. His scream broke through the chaos. One of the council towers had fallen. Black smoke filled the sky. Kalara looked around. We cannot win like this, Ethan shouted. You have to open the stone core. Kalara froze. That is madness. Leora grabbed her arm. No, he is right. If the legends are true, it may be our only chance. The three ran toward the heart of the city, toward the sealed chamber. The ground beneath them still shaking, the sky above now red. They reached the great gate. Old symbols glowed. It had not been opened in thousands of years. Ethan stepped forward. He raised his arm. The mark on his skin now burned with gold. The gate responded. Stone turned to light. Light turned to sound. It opened inside a machine, half alive, half forgotten. Stone core. It pulsed once. Then again. Ethan stepped into the circle. The machine spoke in an old tongue, but he understood it. Input recognized. Human pattern confirmed. Activation requires mutual bond. Kalara and Leora stepped forward without question. They placed their hands beside his. The machine screamed, not in fear, but in birthlight, shot into the sky. A signal, a weapon, a beacon. The swarm paused. Confused then, the weapon fired a wave of pure force, silent, blinding, clean. Swarm was gone. Ethan fell to his knees, breathing hard. The sisters caught him before he fell. The city stood barely, but it stood, and now the world knew the war had begun. Zerath. Prime breath. Silence after the storm. Ash floated through the sky like falling stars. The towers stood burned but unbroken. The people had seen the truth. The human was not weak. The human had become their shield, and now the world watched him not with fear, but with something else. Hope. Ethan lay still in the healing chamber, his eyes closed, his body glowing faint gold where the mark still burned. He had touched the stone core. He had awakened something older than the city, older than the stars. And now his blood moved different, stronger, unnatural. Olavi Kalara sat beside him, her hand on his chest, feeling the heartbeat, steady but slow. The healers had done all they could, but something inside him was changing on its own. Something not even they could. Nami. Leora watched from the far side of the chamber, her arms crossed, her face unreadable. But inside her heart moved fast. She had felt the bond in the moment they saved him. It was not just with Kalara. It was with both of them. The queen entered without sound, her cloak dragging dust across the stone. She looked at Ethan, then at her daughters. Time has come, she said. You must complete the ritual, if he is to survive, if you are to stay united. The bonding ceremony must not be delayed. Kalara nodded. Leora said nothing, but her eyes met her sister's, and for the first time in many years they saw the same fire. Not in battle, not in pride, but in love. That night, the sky above the temple of flame turned silver. A sign, a signal. The bonding ceremony would begin. The people gathered in silence. This was not tradition. This was history being made. Never before had a human stood at the center. Never before had two royal daughters shared the bond. But never before had the world almost ended. Ethan stood between them. Dressed in dark robes marked with golden lines, he felt light, not weak, but different. Like his bones had remembered something, his mind had forgotten. Kella stepped forward, her voice calm, her heart Ludan. Your eyes, I found no fear. In your soul, I saw no chains. I stand with you not to lead, but to walk beside the storm. Liora followed, her voice like wind over fire. You looked at me and did not look away. You listened when no one else did. I give you no promise of peace, only promise of truth. Ethan raised his hands, touched theirs, his words soft, carved from old sorrow and new strength. Do not belong to stars or stone. I belong to those who chose me, not for power, but for purpose. The ground beneath them opened slowly, the circle of flame revealed. A place only touched by those who dared to trust, not with weapons, but with hearts. Stepped in together, the circle lit with light, one side blue, one side silver, and in the middle, white. The high priest spoke the final words. From one came two, from two now comes one. Let the bond rise not as command, but as connection. The fire rose around them, not to burn, but to join. In the moment their hands locked, the flame became wind. The wind became light, and the light became memory. Ethan saw visions of Earth, of Zereth, of futures still unwritten, of children running through gardens not yet built. Kalara saw herself not as warrior, but as mother, as protector of not just blood, but of meaning. Liora saw the shadows fade, saw her name not behind, but beside, and the world watched as the bond sealed, not with force, but with choice. The flames vanished. Sky cleared, and the stars above seemed to bow. The queen stepped forward, her voice soft for the first time in years. The bond is made. Let none break it. Let none question it. The people knelt, not in fear, in respect. But peace never lasts long under stars. And far beyond the city, beyond the reach of firelight, something had seen the flame rise, and something had answered in the cold black space between systems. A signal echoed back. Not human, not Zerathi, something else. In the deep room beneath the council tower, an ancient monitor blinked. A language no one had spoken in centuries appeared. Coordinates, movement, arrival. The council elders gathered, their faces pale, their voices low. The swarm has not been destroyed, it was only delayed, and now it knows. Queen was told, but she said nothing. She only looked to the sky in the temple of flame. Ethan slept beside Kalara and Liora, his breath even, his dreams bright, but in the core of his blood, a signal pulsed, a memory, waiting. The trigger prepared. The bond had saved him. The bond had saved them all for now. The stars were quiet, the kind of quiet that comes before thunder, the kind of silence that carries the weight of everything not yet said. Zereth Prime stood still, not in fear, but in waiting. Ethan stood at the edge of the tower, the highest one, his eyes searching the sky. He had felt it, something waking far away, something dark and hungry. Kalara stepped beside him, her voice calm, but her hand was tight on her blade. It is not over. No, Ethan replied. It never really was. Liora joined them, a scroll. In her hand she had read the signals, read the ancient tongue that came from the stars. They are coming again, stronger, faster, smarter. Ethan nodded, his heart heavy, but his eyes clear. We have one chance. The queen called for a final gathering. The city filled the flame hall, every warrior, every elder, every voice ready to listen. Ethan walked forward, not as a visitor, not as a stranger, but as a symbol, a bond between worlds. He stood before them and spoke. No throne, no armor, just truth I was born on. A broken world raised in a war without meaning. I saw earth burn, I saw hope die. But I never forgot who we were. I never forgot what it means to be human. He looked at Kalara, then at Liara, then back at the crowd. You saw me bleed. You saw me fight now. I ask you to stand with me, not for my world, but for yours. Because soon there will be no more walls, no more planets, only light and shadow. Room was still. Then the queen rose. She lifted her staff, and the fire in the center of the hall turned. Bluzereth will stand beside the last son of Earth. The city moved like one. Preparations began. Old ships were pulled from the stone. New weapons forged in silence, and deep below, the stone core pulsed again. Kalara led the ground legions, her armor reborn in white flame. Liora commanded the sky fleet, her eyes sharp, her orders sharp. No mistake allowed. Ethan stood at the heart, connected to the core, its energy now part of him. He could feel the stars, he could feel the swarm. They were close, and then they arrived. A ripple in the sky, like glass shattering without sound. Dark shapes poured through, insects made of metal and night. Eyes that blinked with hate, voices that screamed without sound. The battle began. Kalara struck first, a blade of light, cutting through black wings, her roar shaking towers. Leora flew above, her ship dancing through fire, guiding missiles like arrows from gods. Ethan stepped into the chamber of command. He closed his eyes, reached into the core, let it speak through him. Energy flowed through the city. Shields rose, weapons aimed, hope returned. But the swarm kept coming. For every one that fell, two more rose. Kalara was wounded, blood running down her arm. But she did not stop. Leora's ship was hit. She crashed into the sand. But she crawled out and kept firing. Ethan saw it all, and still he stood. Then he heard Ida's voice from the center of the swarm. From the queen of their kind, we remember your kind. We remember Earth. We remember fear. Ethan answered without sound, only thought. We are not afraid anymore. He reached deeper into the core, pushed past the pain, past the fire, and he found it. The memory of the first builders. The ones who made the core, the ones who made Zerath, had faces like his. They were human. The truth shattered across his mind. Humans had come here before. Long before the Zerathi, they had built the core, left it behind. And now he had returned. He opened his eyes. The core turned gold. A blast of energy rose, a tower of light, striking the swarm queen. Everything froze. The sky paused. The air stopped. Then the swarm began to fall one by one, like rain made of metal. Ethan felt too exhausted, empty. But Eleva, Kalara, and Leora reached him. Together, their hands lifting him. You did it. No, we did. The city cheered. The people wept, and above the stars burned bright again. Later, Ethan stood in the garden, Kalara on his right, Leora on his left. The world whole. He looked at the sky. Maybe Earth is gone, but humanity is not. It lives here now, in fire, in love, in unity, and far across the galaxy, where no stars shine, a single beacon remained lit, not as a warning, but as a promise. We are still here.